So we know the Earth is flat.
Yep.
Because of the fact that we use the ground plane we use to measure elevation angles is a flat plane.
Yeah, that's right. We measure Earth flat. That's correct.
Disease that you have. It's called spheritard. The Earth is not a sphere because, and I'm going to hand it off to one of my cohorts here to help you understand it very quickly. Nathan, my good sir.
What? What are you handing to me?
He's got that sphere disease, and I'm going to hand it off to you. Tell him that the Earth is observed, measured, navigated, aviated, flat.
Well, you just said it all. Earth's measured flat. Were you unaware?
No.
Is that no, you weren't aware, or no, it's not measured flat?
No, I was not aware.
Oh, well, there you are. Happy days. It's measured flat. A lot of your globe belief comes from those measurements. For instance, radius. So to infer that you're on a sphere, first you have to start lining it up with the things that you're going to be correlating to that sphere. Most importantly, the stars. So we take angle measurements off a flat plane to those stars to track all of their movements. From there, you can extrapolate certain things to give you the sphere, like the minimum elevation angle to Polaris, measured off a flat plane, gives you the latitude grid that gets wrapped around the ball. But those are all flat Earth measurements in the first instance. So I don't know how long you've been in this arena, but along your travels, you might hear some of your cohorts, that is to say globe believers, saying things like, Earth's so big, we'll measure it flat. Well, yes, this local area can be considered to be flat when we take this measurement, but that's only because it's a really big ball. Well, examples like that are a tacit acceptance or a tacit admission that in order to actually functionally use Earth with measurements, it's got to be measured flat. And that's true for everybody, not just flat earthers, globe believers. Things like elevation angles to give you radial values. To put things into orbital motion, you were quite keen to talk about orbital motion earlier. What do you think orbital motion is? It's all derived from flat plane measurements of these stars, angle measurements. That's where we get these motions to describe them, to put them into orbital motion with Kepler and Huygens. So you take flat Earth measurements, derive a spherical R value for a globe that you can put in motion around the sun, and then scale it all with Venus, as you mentioned it, to give you the 1 AU. But all of those extrapolations started with angle measurements off a flat Earth. That's the origin of all measurements for the globe or anything else. There you go. Now you know. Earth's measured flat. That's how the globe's created, with those flat Earth measurements. That's why you need things like Einstein to put people into believing that the Earth that's measured flat, to create models by people like Kepler. Those models are things that you can actually reify into existence and stand on. But it creates all sorts of stupid problems, like, why aren't you flying off it? Oh, well, because of gravity. What's gravity? Well, everything going down, pulling you onto this ball. Well, not all things go down. Well, let's call it a bent pseudo-Riemannian force space-time bending, then. You know, the uneven distribution of mass causes the warping of that space-time that I invented in this geometry. And that holds you to the ball. Confused? You better be.
All roads lead to flat Earth. All. Every single one.
I'm interested in what he's thinking when Nathan now said it's measured flat, they extrapolate that from flat surface. I want to know what...
Well, that's a lot for him to take in. Let him take it in. Just be patient.
I just find it hard to believe how you could extrapolate so many things from these things in the sky. And if I really wanted to take the time to look in the sky, find the elevation angle to stars, and over the years and years, track them down, and then eventually it of something across the sun, I could do all the things that people did only 300 years ago. I could do all that, and I could come to spherical Earths.
With elevation angles, you will come to sphere.
You're saying with all the time in the world, I could take all the elevation angle measurements of the stars and track their movements like they did 300 years ago. Yeah, so like they did 300 years ago, you could make lots of flat Earth measurements of these stars and then get to the ball. But you've just measured angles off a flat plane to the stars. That's how the system works.
When you're taking a elevation like what's just been posted in Ballbuster's text chat, when you're trying to measure the elevation to a star, you're not actually using the entire Earth as your plane. You're using more of like an imaginary plane. Like if I was on top of a mountain, now my plane, now my elevation, not elevation plane.
Yeah, no, it's not an imaginary plane. It's the plane that you're standing on and measuring. Do you want me to define elevation angle for you?
The ground plane, yes, thank you. Into the
ground
break.
plane.
So we know the Earth is flat.
Yep.
Because of the fact that we use the ground plane we use to measure elevation angles is a flat plane.
Yeah, that's right. We measure Earth flat. That's correct.
Are we really measuring the ground plane?
Yeah, I'll define it for you. Angle of elevation. Okay, this one's from I've got about 20.
Well, no, I want an elevation. I want a definition of a ground plane.
But we're making elevation angle measurements. I'm just going to define what that is. So this is from eeducation.psu.edu. Solar altitude measures the angle between the central ray from the sun and a horizontal plane contacting the observer. Here's another one. This one's from Sustainable by Design. The altitude angle, sometimes referred to as solar elevation angle, describes how high the sun appears in the sky. The angle is measured between an imaginary line between the observer and the sun and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on. The reason it's the plane you're standing on is because you're taking this line to a point below the star on the ground. That's called a ground position. So in your mind was an imaginary plane, but we're dealing with navigation and maps and where things are on the ground positions. And it's a baseline, the base. And that line is straight and flat and must be to function or measure any of these angles to create the globe with. So when you deny that these positions, let's say latitude, on your globe, they're points on the ground. But the measurements to get those lines that are ground positions on your globe, they're flat Earth measurements to get them. Yeah, angles off a plane, they're elevation angles. That's what latitude is. Now in your mind, they're wrapped around a globe. We know they're measured flat to create that globe as a model. Yeah, but the flat Earth is what's measured to get there. Now you can deny it and say, well, isn't it imaginary plane? Okay, in La La Land for a Glober, when we point out Earth's measured flat, they want it to be an imaginary plane. No, we're dealing with Earth. It's navigation, ground positions, things like that, baselines. They're not inferring imaginary anything. We're navigating the ground with this stuff because it's flat. That's how it's measured.
Okay. All right. So
welcome to Flat Earth.